Hi everyone, welcome to Everyday, your daily stop for virtual reality content. My name is Dee, and this is a special episode. I'm going to be talking a little bit about just my feelings about today's Facebook acquisition of Oculus VR. Now, a lot of people were really surprised by this, really disappointed, really shocked, really in disbelief. And I have to be honest, when I first saw this news, the first thing I thought was, is it April Fool's already? Did Mark Zuckerberg's account get hacked? Is some troll on Reddit playing a joke on us? But this actually happened, and if you think about it, there is a logic to it. It's honestly the applications that I was most excited for on the Rift going forward were not just gaming applications, but I think kind of the killer app for VR is really going to be that metaverse experience where you're able to share like a Second Life type of world with other people and interact with them in it and have a connection that's similar to the connection that you have in real life. And that kind of social connection actually is what Facebook is about. But see, this is the weird thing to me about this when I think about the acquisition is that Oculus Rift is a hardware producer. Linden Labs just came out with Rift support for Second Life. I haven't played it yet. I'm in the beta program. It's just beta support right now. And they're starting to make these small applications like VR chat, like Rift Max Theater, that allow people to interact in VR. And, these things are being built, and they are still very, very early in the process of development. And, I could see I could see Facebook buying up Linden Labs and saying Linden Labs is buying into the VR space. They're going to build this virtual social space, and we want to get into that because that's more obviously related to their core mission. But buying a hardware producer, buying the people who are running the platform seems a little bit stranger. And I mean, I know that Oculus is not just a hardware producer. I know that they're building a platform. They're in a lot of ways comparable to a console manufacturer like Nintendo, in the sense that they manufacture a hardware device which is used to participate in the platform, but they also manage publication of titles for that platform and produce first-party titles of their own for that platform. So in a lot of ways it makes sense, but it only makes sense if we're reasonably certain that Oculus is in the process of developing some kind of virtual reality social space for the Rift platform, and they haven't ever revealed anything like that. So I don't quite see how it connects to Facebook's core business. When I read Facebook's statement, they say that they see it as kind of this is the future of social communication, that it's going to be how people participate in events in the future, how they communicate and do education and workplaces in the future, and I believe in all that. But I don't think any of that is proven. And when you look at the acquisition price, it's kind of a little bit ridiculous. Oculus received $400 million in cash, and Facebook stock valued at $1.6 billion for a total of $2 billion. And additionally, they will receive an additional $300 million if Oculus meets certain targets in the future. So just for comparison, Oculus so far, they raised about $100 million from venture capitalists so far. And they just got an influx of money that is on the order of 20 times that much. And that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And, I don't believe for a second that this is about Palmer Luckey and Brendan Uribe just deciding that, oh, we're just going to take the biggest check we can get and retire, and we don't care about VR anymore. That's not who they are. I honestly think that Palmer Luckey, and he posted to Reddit about this today, and what he basically said is he is still obsessed with VR, and he was skeptical about this deal at first, but in the long run, he came to feel like this was kind of the best way to guarantee that they're going to be able to push VR forward. And when I say guarantee, I think what I mean by that is, so in the end, when Oculus was going up against people like Sony in the market, and when they only had $100 million of funding, they had 100 employees, they still had to worry about manufacturing, and what would Oculus do if they had to do a big launch, if they had to produce a huge number of units, and they don't have existing relationships with manufacturers of the scale that they would need to really pull off that kind of large consumer launch, to really do the marketing at a large scale, to do the production at a large scale. And I think ideally what this relationship will allow them to do is to say, well, now we have enormous amounts of financial backing. Now we have access to Facebook's entire, their entire marketing department, their entire sales department. And what that lets Oculus do is just say, well, we've got the best hardware and software engineers in the industry, and we're just going to have them focus on producing a really, really good virtual reality headset. And then we're going to leave all the business side to the business people at their parent business. And I think, and particularly the relationships with manufacturers is a really important part of this. I think that screens, like, to build, so far the Oculus Rift has just been using, like, they've just been using smartphone displays, basically. Like, this is the Rift DK1. It has a 7-inch, I believe, a tablet display inside it. The Rift DK2 has a 1080p smartphone display inside it, probably from Samsung. And none of these displays are really optimal for VR. In VR, you need a display that has an extremely high DPI. You need a display that has an aspect ratio that is appropriate for human vision. You need a display that they can do low persistence on, which means it needs to be able to have a very fast pixel switching time. You need a good contrast ratio. And, DK2 is better than DK1, and they had better hardware lined up for the consumer release. But with the power of a major company like this behind them, what they can do now is they can go to manufacturers and say, we are building a VR headset. We need displays that are built for VR headsets, and you're going to build them, and we're going to pay you enough to, like, build the factory lines that are needed to produce this new kind of screen. And that's a huge initial capital investment that before Oculus could not even begin to plausibly afford. Whereas now they might be able to do that and then roll off a huge number of Rift units that have these new kind of more ideal displays. And I'm not saying this will necessarily happen. Maybe Facebook won't be willing to front that kind of capital for them until they've proven themselves. But I think it still opens a lot of doors in terms of just access to things that require that kind of capital, that require those kind of relationships. So it's definitely not all bad. And I think despite the fact that, we're dealing with a company that we might not trust, that we're not sure about their policies, we're not sure about what their priorities really are, what their agenda really is. What this is going to do is it's going to ensure that VR actually succeeds this time around, and that hopefully it'll enter the mainstream and be in everybody's hands. And then once it's there, there's room for competition, and there's room for other people to say, you have a headset already, well, we're making a better headset. It'll help to get everybody else into the game. Facebook and Sony are now in the game. And what other big companies are going to be getting into the game now when there are already two very large companies taking it very seriously? And $2 billion is pretty seriously. So I'm anticipating we might start to see buy-in from companies like Nintendo, like Microsoft, like just like Google, possibly, just any other number of big tech companies. So I mean, that's the positive side. The negative side is a lot of people are worried about integration. A lot of people think about the whole YouTube comments fiasco, where Google said, we want to get people on our Google Plus platform, and oh look, we have all these YouTube users already, so let's just force them to use Google Plus. And a lot of people were very unhappy about that. And, from Google's perspective, a large part of it was, YouTube's comment system sucks. Let's see if we can improve it while also doing some integration with our existing platform. But I still think that kind of integration can be a really bad move. And what I'm hoping is that Facebook doesn't attempt to do that kind of integration. Like, there are examples. Facebook recently acquired Snapchat, incidentally, for about half the price at $1 billion. They recently acquired WhatsApp, which has a huge user base, and that was about $19 billion. So they're doing a lot of large acquisitions right now, and basically there are two ways it can go. One of the ways it can go is they can go the route of trying to integrate all of these services into their platform to force these users to use Facebook as part of their experience, to try and get users to cross-post things to Facebook, and all of that would be generally really annoying. And the other way they can go is, I like to provide the more positive example of Disney's acquisitions of Marvel and of Lucasfilms. And those acquisitions actually went surprisingly well, despite the fact that Disney is not really like a super nice, good company. They have just about as much evil in their history as Facebook does. They still managed to keep the same staff working on Marvel and Lucasfilms. They managed to pump a lot of money into them and make successful film franchises. Or, well, we don't know if Star Wars is going to be revived yet in a good way. And so I think that there's a good chance that Facebook is going. They say that Oculus is going to be operating independently, that it's going to have the same staff, and I think there's a good chance that they're going to realize that that the staff and the staff's vision and the staff's talent is what makes Oculus great, and they don't want to sabotage that by trying to interfere with their business. That they need to just kind of give them what they need to succeed and then step back and let them do it. And I hope that's the approach that Facebook takes, and if it is, then we could stand to see them being even more successful than they were before. On the negative side, Facebook's reputation is going to kill a lot of confidence that a lot of people have in the platform, and probably the most high-profile person so far has been Notch, Minecraft creator, who was originally strongly considering porting Minecraft officially to the Oculus Rift, and has basically now said, no, we're not going to do that. I don't trust Facebook. And that's, by itself, that is a really, really big deal, because Minecraft is, the third best-selling video game of all time. And it carries a demographic that is the up-and-coming generation. And those are the people who need to be growing up with VR. And there is an unofficial mod support for it, and it's pretty good, and there probably will continue to be unofficial mod support in the future, but it was really important to me to see official support for the Rift in Minecraft, and the idea that that might not be happening is really, really disappointing. And I wonder how many other developers are going to pull out, because before they were investing in VR not because it was a sure bet, but because they believed that this could be something new and exciting that could redefine things, and now they're worried that it might be ultimately just a tool that's being leveraged to help in data mining or to increase advertising revenue for Facebook. And I don't know what approach Facebook is going to take down the line, and what it all comes down to is that I think Oculus is still going to ship their headset. I think it's still going to be successful. I think they're still going to get good titles on it. And what's going to happen to Oculus in the long run, what Facebook is going to do with managing them in the long run, is just that's what we can't foresee, and we're going to have to wait and see what approach Facebook takes. Now, if you're wondering if I'm going to continue doing this channel, the answer is yes, and that is because for me, Oculus is not just about the story of Oculus, the underdog, who raised Kickstarter funds and made people believe in VR again, and is going to be a successful platform that started from scratch. It's not just about that. And if Sony were the first one to announce VR, I would be just as excited about it because it's not about the little guy versus the big guy. What it's about is VR is something that's going to reshape and redefine society, and it's something that's going to provide access to things that people need, something that's going to decrease consumption and transportation costs, something that's going to it'll affect the environment, it'll affect how we communicate, it'll affect relationships, and it'll affect humanity. And that's something that's bigger than Facebook. And so I want to continue to get people excited about it, and I want to tell people to not lose hope because Facebook has a bad reputation, but we don't know yet what they're going to do here. And we do know that, at least for the moment, Oculus is continuing to operate independently with the same staff and the same vision that they had before. So let's just hope that Facebook understands that you don't mess with a good thing when you have it. And that's all for today. Everybody have a great every day.